and this is My Slovak Experience.
Hi, welcome to My Slovak Experience podcast. Today is the first time I interviewed two guests, Humberto and Elena Abad, that are Mexican siblings who have lived in Chicago for more than a decade before they landed in Slovakia. Humberto came in 2011 and his sister followed him a couple of years later to stay with the family, but also because her brother seemed to be having a good life in Central Europe. Through this story, I also want to show how stories of foreigners living in Slovakia are powerful influencers to our family and peers back home. Foreigners living here are the first ambassadors of that experience, and people back in their home country see Slovakia through their eyes. In the podcast, we talk a lot about the differences between the three countries Elena and Humberto lived in, about the upsides of living in Slovakia, but also some downsides, like, for example, the lack of chances to buy really good Mexican food here. And with just a few genuine tortillas available in Slovakia, it would really be a perfect place. And now, I will leave you with Elena and Humberto Abad. Enjoy, and thank you a lot for listening. I'm here, also to folks that are there, I'm here with Humberto and Elena, that are both Abads, right? So they are both from Mexico, I know, right? And they are both here in Slovakia, right? So brother and sister. So welcome to My Slovak Experience.
Thank you.
Hi, hello everyone.
So the first question is actually, what are you doing here in Slovakia, right? And how did you manage to come to this country and start living here? So who the food before started coming here? You?
I was here first, yes.
So let's get to you first. So
Alrighty. How I came to be here, it's because in 2011 I arrived to Slovakia. The reason was because I met my wife, which is like many foreigners. The reason we came here was because of a relationship. Mm-hmm. I met my wife while living in Chicago. I met her around 2007. We did it for a while. We got engaged. We got married while still in Chicago. And after 1 year of marriage, since we got married, we sort of knew we were leaving Chicago. She wanted to come back. I wanted to leave Chicago for many years. And then we just set a date and said, okay, so we leave this date. We had no kids, no major commitments back then. I had never been to Europe or Slovakia. Mm-hmm. And we chose January to leave Chicago, got rid of all our stuff, got rid of our cars, said goodbye to people, and we came to Slovakia.
So 2011.
January 2011.
So and how long have you been living in Chicago before?
14 years.
So but you're from where originally?
Originally, we are born in Mexico City.
Okay.
Raised in Celaya, Guanajuato, and in 1996 we made the trip to Chicago.
Okay.
And second chapter of our life began, and this is the third one.
So you're already like American experience, let's say, US experience before, because America is everything, right? That's one of the things that we cannot call American in the US, but everything is American, right?
Correct.
We should.
We should. So the point here is as well that you had, your wife is Slovak, right? So she wanted to live in Slovakia, and you found out that was something interesting. And before coming here, have you ever visited Slovakia, or did you know something about it?
I knew that they used to be Czechoslovakia because they used to play in the World Cup as Czechoslovakia. Once I met her and her sister, of course, then I learned more things about Slovakia. While still in Chicago, I ordered a book on Amazon called My Foreign Experience as a Slovak, and it's written by an American that lived here for many years.
Okay.
And it's quite informative, so I learned. It talks about everything: geography, politics, food. So it gives you a glimpse of what it was for her to live, I think, in the 90s in Slovakia. But other than that, nothing I saw in the map. And
So you came here to live, but you didn't
I knew
come here
nothing.
before. You knew nothing.
Nothing. I didn't know, or these international companies were here. We knew there was another American that married a Slovak that was here already,
Okay.
and somebody gave us their contact. So we contacted them and told them what he was doing for a living, because that was my worry. What am I gonna do there as I only spoke English and Spanish? And they gave us a bit of comfort, because they said, don't worry, there's jobs here. I don't speak Slovak, he said, and I manage. So when I first came here, I looked for a job in the company where he was working,
Yeah.
and I worked there for 1 month. In that 1 month, a friend of my wife's told me, why don't you apply to IBM? Because she worked in IBM. And I'm like, no way, I'm gonna get hired by IBM, you crazy? Because I had the notion of IBM in the States,
Of course.
where getting a job in IBM can be quite tough because. But she said, no, I think you can get it, especially because you speak Spanish. And I said, really? Okay. So I tried. I went to the interview and I got hired. And I started April 1st, 2011
Okay.
at
Cool.
IBM.
But stopping a moment, when your bro decided to go to live in Slovakia, you had any thought about it, or like what was your reaction?
It was rough. It was rough to process it. We have always been, we used to be a very close family. We were together for a very, very long time. So when he decided to leave, it was difficult. It was a little bit sad, but we eventually came to terms with it. And by that I mean I moved with him.
So how long did
made
it
the
take
move.
before you were following?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years?
Maybe a little bit more, like 2.5 or something, close to 3. Because I actually lived in Chicago 16 years before I actually left, but then I went to Mexico for about 9 months, and then I came here.
And it was because he had a particular good experience?
No. It was because there was a baby on the way.
Okay.
And so when that happened, I started to think about what if, at that point in my life, I had no responsibilities either. So I thought, why not? And then when the baby was born, 4 months after, I decided to make the trip, and then I never left.
And by that point, we had already told her getting a job here is easy for someone with experience.
Yeah, because you have additional skill that is
Yes.
your foreign language that
Right.
is foreign also here.
Right, and definitely, obviously, if they wouldn't have helped me or if they wouldn't be here, I probably wouldn't even have thought of making the move because of the language, right? It's difficult living in a country when you don't speak the language, you don't understand,
Yeah.
You cannot communicate. But thanks to them and my sister-in-law especially, it was a much easier decision, and they made it much easier for me because I could rely on them for anything I didn't know or needed. So yeah, that's how I made the trip. And then the baby was here, so she just made everything much better.
Interesting. So 2011, there was already Facebook, I guess, right?
Yes,
So
for sure.
what was the first thing you was sharing about Slovakia when you were maybe still in Mexico?
Pictures, because I love pictures. He started traveling a lot. I remember they went to Rome, to Paris,
Okay.
Prague, which are major cities for the people that live in America. I had also never been in Europe, so that was something that really caught our attention. He was really having a good time here. And the fact that he was able to get a job in a good company, and they seem to be having a pretty good life. So, yeah, that was a good thing.
And how do you remember Bratislava? I guess when you came, how was different than now, and first impressions from someone that was living in Chicago and before in Mexico?
First impressions. My first impression was when we landed. My wife is from Banska Bystrica, so we went to Banska Bystrica, and we were there while I applied for this first job, while we found a flat. And the first, I told my wife when I first came, and I still believe it, that it reminded me more of Mexico than US, of course. So everything I saw, I related it more to Mexico, to a small city, not Mexico City, the other cities in Mexico.
How many Slovakians fits in Mexico City?
In Mexico City?
In terms of population, probably like
It's
20 Slovakia?
22 million in Mexico, and it's...
Oh, in Mexico City is 20 million, so it would be 4 Slovakias.
Yeah, 4 Slovakia in one city. That's cool.
But no, there are other cities in Mexico which look more Spanish looking, so stone streets, and Slovakia reminded me of that. Also, many buildings in Mexico are not well maintained. Many buildings here are not well maintained. So I saw many similarities that reminded me of Mexico, not of the States. So compared to the States, no, it was a different planet, but compared to Mexico, not so much. And everyone was very welcoming. Everything I asked, I got, obviously, because they wanted me to make sure I was comfortable. I was the new one, making sure he gets everything he wants. So that was fine by me. And that was it. Then when I came to Bratislava, we stayed with a friend for 3 days, I think, 2 nights.
Okay.
And that was, I think, the first time I saw that in Europe you guys like to have the toilet in a separate room than the bathroom. That doesn't exist in the States or in Mexico, so that was surprising.
So that is not separate?
No, it's a bathroom. It's all together.
Interesting. So, but actually, if I went to give a little information about the Italian experience, also in Italy there is no separation generally, right? The majority of bathrooms are all together, right? You have everything there. So I found also for me a kind of typicality of Slovakia or Austrian experience that I wasn't used to.
Also, I couldn't understand why they still do, the washing machines inside the bathroom, which also in Mexico and in the States we don't put the washing machine inside the bathroom, and here people design their houses, and even when it's their choice, they put it there because that's what they're used to doing it.
But
so
I think one of the biggest shocks for you was the actual shower situation, no?
Oh, the showers. Because showers don't exist here, so they wanted me to shower in a bathtub, sitting.
What kind of showers?
To shower
sitting
your body.
down in the bathtub.
Because then I learned that people sit here when they shower, and I'm like, how can you clean yourself while sitting?
Okay.
So it was a mystery to me. So then I just made a mess in the bathroom everywhere I went, because I would just stand up and shower myself, but then they have no curtains, so the water just went everywhere.
Yeah, but I think but it's actually true. If you go as well into, that's probably the weirdest part, because of course in the houses you might imagine that everybody does what they want, right? If they want just to take a bath in the bed, that is up to them. But you go into the schools, so where there are some kind of changing rooms or shower rooms and so on, and you still see the option.
Yes.
There is no hanging on top.
Yes, so you need to hold it with your hand.
Yeah, but probably the pressure of water is smaller, so that you don't make a mess around.
And then
I'm with you. I'm also this guy that likes to have,
Complete shower.
water coming from above you,
Oh, yeah.
downwards. But anyways, it's something you have to get used to. And every time we go see the grandma, I know that's the deal, and I don't shower, or it's very uncomfortable for me. So those were things that you spot right away. That when you mention it, then you're the weirdo, because what do you mean?
Yeah.
Why do we have a separate bathroom, a separate room for the toilet? But yeah, it's just different. And
Till this day, my sister and my dad hate showering in my bathroom because I also have to hold
Okay.
the thing while I'm sitting in my bathtub, and now I'm used to it. But
You get
if
used
they
to
don't
it,
have to, when they come visit, they just rather shower at my brother's because they just cannot figure out
So you
what to
mounted
do.
the shower.
luckily, now the new houses, they have showers and the bathtub, because they have to keep the bathtub.
Yeah.
But now they give you the options to have both, so we have a shower at home, which is nice.
Cool. What about the people in general? So, how was the welcoming from not only members of your family, but also colleagues or who you were not in everyday contact with?
Colleagues in IBM, because in that first company I worked, there were quite a number of foreigners. So, first of all, it was the first time I heard so much British English, and it was hard to understand at the beginning. Even when I came to IBM, I used to sit in the Apollo building, and there was inside sales in the Apollo building, and there were many British people, or many people that learned to speak English with the British accent.
Yeah.
So it was hard to understand what they were saying, or Irish accent. It was terrible. But again, something you get used to it. But at least we were a group of foreigners that we're all getting used to. Many of them were fairly new. For the Slovaks, they were okay with it. I feel like as long as you don't, they had their job, they did their thing, and you were like the helper that came here to help out, I don't know, something like this. And they don't mind. I didn't know why they changed their shoes when they came to the office, but they like to
But
change
yes,
their
as well.
shoes.
In Mexico, there is not this tradition to put out the shoes.
Nowhere in Mexico
home,
you take your shoes off unless you're home. Not at work, and even in Mexico, like here, when you go to someone's house, and that happens in the States too, you take your shoes off outside and then you go in. In Mexico, that doesn't even happen. You go with your
the
shoes everywhere. So yeah, and coming to the office is like, when they put almost like slippers almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's still a puzzle in my head. Most
But
of
the
the time.
people were fine. Everywhere you go, like if you went to someone's house, they welcome you with a shot, which I'm never gonna say no to. I remember in Banska Bystrica.
Palenkas immediately.
Yes. I don't know when it was, but it was sort of recent. Maybe like 6 months after we came, there were these balls dancing. So okay, we went to the ball, and you step in, and there's people with shots, just in a tray full of shots. I'm like, okay, so the shot here, shot there. A shot was like 50 cents, so then all you do is, have shots. So in that part, it's fantastic, all the shots that you receive out of nowhere. And this is just them being polite to you, offering you a shot.
Oh yeah.
And I'm all for that.
And also from, I think it's totally part of the culture in it. That is the beginning of an event, a party, a celebration starts with the pripitok, and that's the
Yeah, a shot.
But no tequila shot when party starts. Or?
There's no good tequila here, unfortunately.
No, but from your background or tradition.
To start a party with, I don't think you get to a place and there's a shot waiting for you. No.
Okay.
No, this has to be purely.
You're
And
Western
usually
European,
there you have to
Western-
request it. It's not. Nobody assumes that everyone will have a shot. Here it's assumed everyone will have one. There, not everyone will.
Except for the drivers, yeah.
Yes, that's for sure. I remember one of the best experiences. This was like the second day we were in Slovakia. My brother-in-law works for the post office. And my sister wanted to go walk around with her mother and sister and do some shopping. And I wanted to upload some pictures to Facebook that because we had just come, because we did Chicago, Mexico, Slovakia. So I wanted to upload pictures from Mexico. So they're like, why don't you go with the brother-in-law to his office? There's space there. You work, take the computer, you upload pictures, browse the internet. I'm like, okay, come, I'll go. He doesn't speak English, nothing. So it was mostly signs. But while I was sitting in their office, there's like a little open space of 5 people. I was uploading pictures. I was like, Humberto. And I turned, and in their desk, they have a bottle of Hruškovica. And you want a shot? I'm like, okay, shot is fine. I've never tasted this Hruškovica before either. And we had like 5 shots just in the afternoon there, the after lunch shift. So then it's like I belong in this country, really.
I was very lucky, I think, when I first got here after 4 or 6 months maybe, when I was able to get a job. I started working in Johnson Controls, and there were specifically two Slovaks that were very, very nice and welcoming to me. They took me under their wings, and they took me everywhere, literally, for lunch, and they would make sure that I was always with them, and where is Elena, and looking for me, and helping out with everything I needed, translated menus. I remember them very fondly because they really, really helped me a lot. Just even to go for lunch, you don't even, the menus are not in English. So just for that, just being able to order your food and everything, so that was nice. In general, they're very nice people. They come from a very different background and culture as ours. But as overall, and usually the hardest is with the older generations. They are not so welcoming and a little bit colder, per se. They have a colder attitude towards...
It's like a language issue? Or
No, just that's how they are. But if you see now the younger generations now, it's different. It's changing. You can see this changing. It's moving in the right direction. They're more friendly. They're more welcoming. They've been traveling all over the world, a lot of them. So they have been exposed to other people, other cultures, and so at least I can see the difference. So in general, it's good. You can always have bad experiences, but it's the minority compared to everything else. So I think that's an overall the people get a B+, I would say.
Which one is the most common ice-breaking for when you tell that you're from Mexico? Is there anything that is always coming out?
When I'm from Mexico.
Well, I always get the same question, why? Why are you here? Why are you, because when I say I'm from Mexico, they just assume that I've been in Mexico this whole time, and why would I come to this country where it's so cold and gloomy, and but it's just, they just always want to know why, and then I already know, I have the short version for my story, so I already tell that to every single person that they meet, and that does it.
I don't know when people... Give me more specific question.
I don't know. I'm always having some conversation about pizzas and pastas myself. Right?
Yes.
The football team is very common. That's it.
Here people see, again...
I wonder how Slovak, someone that perhaps doesn't have much experience about Mexico, right, has associated the concept of Mexican here, and then starts an ice breaking.
They start with tequila.
Okay.
Yeah, always with tequila. And especially when you mentioned, because maybe a few that I mentioned, they didn't know that it comes from maguey, from a plant, from the roots of the plant. And they're like, also, it's like medicine. Because here they associate many of their spirits that it's good for your health. And many of them drink it when they feel sick, when they have a headache, when they have a stomachache, they have a shot because it's good for their health. So they're like, so tequila is the same. And I'm like, okay, if you say so, yeah, you could take it that way. But in Mexico, nobody drinks tequila for health. You drink tequila to drink. But there are zero health reasons behind drinking tequila, where I come from. But now I drink Shadow Slivovica when I have a stomachache. So then you learn that it does have some. I don't know how much it's actual physical and also a placebo that this is helping
or
me.
just kills whatever thing
It's
in the
just
stomach, so you don't feel anymore. But that's interesting. And so, well, you started talking about the language as well. So do you all had the chance to learn some Slovak? A bit.
When I first came, the first year probably was, or the second, there was the opportunity to attend Slovak courses twice a week, 1 hour or 1.5 hour in the university, one of the universities. So I signed up and I was going there twice a week. I think I didn't learn as much as I should have for two reasons. One, I wasn't studying on my own after class, so I would just, learn from what I learned in the class. After class, I didn't do any studying, which is not good. And second, I think I was too new, because then it was a proper Slovak course, so they were teaching us a lot of the grammar, why this, why that, all the tenses, and but even the words for me, when someone was speaking, I still couldn't even identify when a word ended and when another one started. So everything sounded very, very foreign, very out there. And I was attending the courses with two colleagues from Brazil. So most of the time we were just laughing at everything instead of paying attention and making the whole class laugh. And that lasted for about 6 months. Then we decided, okay, stop the classes. But and then the rest that I understand, it's just from hearing it, from being here all this many years. Of course, you get used to the language, to hearing the same words over and over. And now I understand some, but I'm still not able to speak any. My goal is to one day be able to speak, but it's not like I'm not taking any steps right now to get there. But I want to.
Also, your kids, right, are speaking Slovak. Right?
Yeah, both of them speak now. They have way more vocabulary than me, that's for sure, and they can express themselves. And also,
no matter how much you study, they're gonna
always be ahead of me. Yes.
Over from you. Yeah.
But now I've learned also some words from them. So now it's not only what I hear from around me at work or on the street, but I've learned many Slovak words from them. Many times in their diminutivo, in their little I don't know.
Like the middle name or?
No, like something Klebik.
Like
So I don't know.
baby talk.
Not exactly. It's kind of.
Klebik. Like instead of saying hey, I just say Klebik.
Yeah. It's
Or Yemik.
Yeah, it's actually.
So I know old words like this, which is not great.
But there are some words that are only like that. Right, they're not even considered, even if they sound like. So it really depends. There are some words that are only like this. But yeah, that's an interesting, different way because you have Ino, right? And a totally different diminutive, but all use the same in kids language.
Yeah.
And how because I also experience sometimes the most awkward thing is when I'm in the park, for example, and there is my son or my daughter playing with another Slovak child, and there is the mother that comes or the father there, right? So with mother and father perhaps you try to speak English, right? But with the child you suppose that they mostly don't speak any other language. So do you, and I never know how to treat the situation. Should I try to speak Slovak also to my son or just keep switching? I never knew which is the best formula. Which one is yours?
Well, I cannot speak Slovak to them because I just can't, but I usually understand everything that is happening, even if the parent of the other child is telling that something to her kid or to all, I know what she's saying. So then if I need to repeat something, I just talk to my kids in Spanish. I say things in Spanish to them. Also because my kids understand Spanish way better than English. So if I want to get something across to them, I need to say it in Spanish. But yeah, with the other parents, then it's just mostly awkward because they don't, then they immediately, obviously they see me and they know I'm not Slovak. And then they see that I'm speaking Spanish, I even sound more foreign than if I would speak English.
Oh yeah.
So then that's just, I create a wall. That's the ones that, okay, you see them more and more times, or they hear you then that you also speak English, then they may try to make a conversation.
I think that kids are somehow helping foreigner to integrate. More, right? Yeah, because they, at least, my son often translates me as well. Sometimes when I don't know the word, he knows it for sure, right? So I found that's interesting thing. Right? They are like gate openers. I don't know if it happens also with the. It's cool.
My daughter, now we've tried more with my daughter, that she's 6 years old. With the little one, we haven't tried it. But with her, we have tried to like, hey, go tell the grandma this, to test if how good she is translating, and she's able to do more than we expected, which is so funny to watch now, no? That she can do more than me now when it comes to translating or communicating with my mother-in-law. So yeah, they will be a help because they will be always have Slovak friends. So then it forces, there's a link between you and the parents which maybe wouldn't be there.
And when you go back, when you go to Mexico now or to Chicago if your family?
To Mexico, my family is in Mexico.
And how often you go there?
Well, recently, I try to go more often. So recently, I've gone once a year.
Okay.
It's quite far, so we need to use almost all of our vacation time to just make it there for at least 3 weeks, because then otherwise it wouldn't make sense at all to just be there for a week or two. It's too long of a trip. So at least once a year.
For me now it's too expensive because the kids pay full ticket. But
At least
with
twice.
kids we've been there. We went once when my daughter was 1, so that was 2013. And then we went with the second one just in November 2017. But that's also because my wife was in maternity. So, the financial situation wasn't excellent. But now that we're both working, obviously we'll try to go every 2 years at least. So they also see Mexico, they get to at least see it on vacation.
And your family coming here from time to time?
My sister comes all the time. Well, again, once a year or twice a year sometimes. My father also has been here 3 or 4 times. 4 times. So yeah, they come and visit often. So that's why sometimes we don't feel the need to go there as often because they're here. So.
Is there anything in particular they're looking forward to see here on top of the family, like that they like particularly from?
They just come here for the
Slovakia?
babies now.
But when they've been here,
Some food or areas to visit.
they've always been, or for example, last time my dad was here, he went to Italy. They've been obviously to Vienna.
I take him.
He's in
We
Budapest,
take him places. Yeah.
Prague,
Poland.
and it's also, it's nice. Now that I live here, I see that for Europeans, Prague, it's nothing now. It's like, Prague, whatever. Or Venice, just here, it's no big deal at all. But when you're so far away in the Americas, either States or Mexico, these cities are like, wow.
A big deal.
So obviously when they come, they do try to visit other places since they're already on this side and they made the trip and made the time. We usually try to take them to one of these cities.
And also these are, the most famous place that you might see in movies or area, right?
Of course.
But there are a lot of, for example, little cities in Slovakia as well that I saw that are very nice. Also Banska Bystrica, right? Or Košice, Trnava, and...
My dad has been to Banska Bystrica. My sister went to Banska Bystrica. And they, they're here on vacation. So also they see things like, why are they doing this or why that's happening? It's mostly that. Yeah, they like the scenery, let's say. But yeah, they also, like when you're new, they see a lot of things and they wonder why things are happening a certain way. So then I just need to tell them that's the way it is. Just don't let it bother you.
Do you feel at home here now, or how do you feel? Or still a foreigner?
Yes, still very much a foreigner. My situation has been a little weird because I came here always thinking, I'm leaving, I'm eventually leaving. I was supposed to be here, the plan was supposed to be, I was supposed to be here only for 2 years, and it's been 6 now, and I don't have any plans to leave. So, it's becoming more and more familiar. I enjoy it here mainly because of my family. But again, it's a nice city to be in. It's safe. It's small, so there's not a lot of traffic or congestion anywhere. I basically walk everywhere here. There's not even a need for a car. Traveling is super easy because again, the flights are super cheap. Everything is close. So there's many advantages of being here. But mainly because of my lack of Slovak, I do hit many walls when it comes to like going to the doctor, for example. Sometimes something as simple as a cold, it's hard to explain to the doctor what's hurting or how I'm feeling. Or if you think about going to the dentist, no, never forget it. No, that's just not happening. So there's many things that, or when I'm in the store and I want to look for a product, or the lady at the cashier is talking to me, and so that's when I know that I'm not at home and that I'm a foreigner. And so it's growing on me. It's getting there. We'll see. I've told my friends and my family the day I buy a house here or an apartment, that's the day where I'm going to enroll myself in Slovak classes just to at least have the basics because it is needed. So we'll see what happens in a year or so.
But take me to the supermarket. I'm interested. So what is because at the end, everybody in the world well knows Mexican cuisine. Not sure how good they know it because I'm not sure that all the Mexican restaurants are exactly how they're supposed to be, probably. But I know that there is a rich variety of a lot of different food. So what are the things you're missing here, perhaps, or what you
from the food?
From the your tradition.
Everything. I mean, the Mexican cuisine is a very rich and vast. We have a lot of variety of things. Here I cannot cook almost anything. A lot of the ingredients are missing. So I can only use...
More fruits or...
well, I'm not a fruit person, but no, I think for what my sister-in-law mentions, when she goes to Mexico, she enjoys the fruits there.
More and more
the mango and stuff.
Similar.
Right. The avocados, for example, every time I go home, I almost start crying because there's mountains and mountains of avocado in good quality. Here, you buy an avocado for like, what, €2 or something, and sometimes it's not even a good avocado. So, yes, as far as the food goes, it's the struggle. It's a huge struggle. Even the restaurants here, well, there's only one restaurant that has close to good food, Mexican food, but it's quite pricey. So it's not like you can go there a lot either. So every time we go home, we go to Mexico, we eat non-stop.
For the next month.
Yes, everything and anything. Because yes, here you cannot find all the ingredients, or maybe not even half of the ingredients that you need for many of the things. I do cook some with using the tomatoes and stuff that you can find here, but it's very, very, very limited. unfortunately. So that would be the only downfall of this country, I think.
What about you?
Oh, I miss food for sure. For sure. When we go to Mexico, also every day breakfast is look forward to.
Okay.
Anything I'm eating there, it's I look forward to because it's so good, and it's so good because it reminds me of what I like. Because maybe for someone else it's not as good, but for me it's delicious. Everything in Mexico is delicious. And here we do what we can, but many times we invite Slovak friends over to our house, and it's very easy to impress them because you make something that in Mexico is super mega simple, but here they've never tried that. So you give it to them and it's a complete success, even though it's quite simple.
It was the guacamole.
Yes, a quesadilla with guacamole, and it's like delicious. Also because they've tried versions of guacamole that are disgusting, and they're not what they're supposed to be. So you give
You need basically the good avocado, right?
and
don't have that, then
but even then you need to know what to do with the avocado, so then it tastes good. How to mix it with other things, so it's good. So yes, definitely the food.
But in the recent time, because one thing that I observed is like, I came to Slovakia about 10 years ago, and at the beginning, a lot of food as well I couldn't really buy if I searched for, except I had to go to Vienna, maybe where there was some Italian food and so on, if I wanted to reproduce some Italian cuisine. But now, going to the supermarkets, I start seeing many more products, and so now I basically, except if I want that particular producer or that particular brand, but for a equal good quality substitute, I can mostly find everything. In these last 5 years, it changed. So that's not the case for you, right?
No, because for example, a lot of our cuisine uses the tomatillo, the green tomatillo. You cannot find it here anywhere. Not even like
it's a green tomato.
Yeah, well, I actually grew it in the garden of my father-in-law, and they grew up. They were small like this.
Yeah.
But
Not
is it
the small tomatillos, but they taste. They were okay. I have no idea how to cook them, by the way. I just tried to make the salsa verde once, and only I liked it.
right?
But you can manage.
There is a Mexican here that I know tried to grow them in Señet, and he was able to produce many kilos. I'm not gonna start growing tomatillos because that's just
I don't have a garden either, so I couldn't even grow them. And
yeah.
it's. I'm sure that if maybe we were hardcore Mexicans, we would be growing everything in his
And
in his
making our
garden.
own tortillas.
Right.
Oh yeah.
But
Right,
it's just
but
not
no.
gonna happen.
Wait, we're not those type of Mexicans either.
I love everything, but I cannot reproduce it myself.
That's fine.
So in that sense, it's not like I can even get like a worse version of the tomatillo. There's just none in the store. And
But anyway, they're never growing as big as when you have the sun in Mexico. So
Right.
that's something you cannot change.
we use a lot of chorizo,
Yeah.
which is not the chorizo that you see here, not even the Spaniard chorizo. You cannot find it here. We used a certain type of cheese, queso fresco, that you cannot find here at all, like not even nothing. So, yeah.
And in Mexico, it's very popular. For example, another thing that the reason, at home we drink a lot of flavored water. So we don't drink wine, we don't drink beer, we drink flavored water. So, but we flavor this water with different fruits, like papaya or watermelon or
Jamaica.
tamarindo, Jamaica, and here, first of all, Jamaica tamarindo, you cannot find them. Now Yemen is starting to have tamarindo.
So you start.
But now, only
getting
2
some-
months ago.
So everybody that wants to start a business, very good Mexican products.
Mexican products, please.
Even non-Mexican would like to buy them, right? For just invitation.
And
And what do you like about the Slovak food? What is anything
I
particular
do
you
like Slovak food, I gotta say, because they use a lot of potatoes, and I love potatoes in all its forms. and they they cook it here with everything. So I love that. I love the cheese, the brinza cheese, the kapusnica soup, and they eat a lot of meat. Well, they like eating meat, so that's also good with us. So, and the halushki, which is the type of pasta with cheese. I love that. So food here, I can't complain either. It's not so bad. So I like it.
Your favorite Slovak food?
My favorite Slovak food has to be something with meat, either a sausage or pork knuckle.
Everything. It's your favorite Slovak food.
I like a lot of things, but since I was in Mexico, for example, I don't like pickles. So if you're gonna put pickle on something, I'm not gonna like it. Unfortunately, when I tasted brinza, it wasn't for me. So if there's brinza on something, I'm gonna have to skip it.
He's always been more picky with food everywhere in the world. So,
But other than that, I eat everything. They give me potatoes, I eat potatoes. They give me chicken, duck, I eat it.
goose.
But you know, since I sort of left Mexico, I came to the conclusion that food, I will just eat it because I'm hungry. But if we want to enjoy food, I will need to eat Mexican. That's just the way it is for me now. So when I'm hungry, I eat. But if I want to look forward to a meal, it'll be when I'm in Mexico.
Okay. No, man, that's, I can, from my case, I can just try to learn or cook the best or go to the best Italian restaurant, but when I go with my hometown, with my mom or grandmother, that is actually what recalls a lot from your childhood and back, and that's, even if maybe it's not the best, but that's the taste you want.
Exactly.
That's what I.
But that's the life as
like
a
as
foreigner,
well.
right? We choose it, and you don't get to complain.
Yeah, you have to make compromises. Yeah, you can't come to this country and expect, like some people here that come as foreigners, and they're like, oh, the pasta here sucks. It's not like in Italy.
Yeah.
Well, because we're not in Italy. So I'm not gonna complain. Well, the Mexican food is not as good here. Well, no, because I'm not in Mexico. So.
And also, perhaps you even appreciate it more now than before.
Yeah, people in Mexico have no idea what they have because until you lose it.
Because even when we were in Chicago, I mean, it's one of the biggest Hispanic communities in the States. So there were all sorts of stores that had everything that you could possibly eat. So even there, we still were not home, but it was still the same thing. We were eating the same. There was no problems. So even there was still a little bit better. But then I guess now there's a huge ocean in between, so that does make a difference. And
if you make a deal, how different? Because if you tell me that in Chicago there were maybe a lot of Mexicans, right? So I guess you had a bigger community. So now that the community is relatively small in Slovakia, so what's so you feel more integrated now into a kind of Slovak environment or foreign environment, or less? How did it play?
Definitely in Chicago, for the first 10 years, I was fully only Mexican culture, surrounded by Mexicans, all the time Mexican. Only until the last maybe 3 years I was in Chicago, I stepped out of the Hispanic Mexican environment and started blending with Americans, which was then is like as I stepped to a different country, because then I saw a different life, a different side of Chicago. And what was the question?
And there was
here.
Here, well, yeah, because there's so few Mexicans. We don't see each other very often, even though thanks to Facebook you see what if someone is struggling with something or has questions about something, there's a communication there, or there's a party there or a celebration there. It's there, but face to face we don't see much, unless Mexico's playing in the World Cup, then we all come
get
together.
together for the games.
But But other than that, yes, you do have to now blend with your neighbors that are Slovaks, blend with your colleagues that are mostly Slovak, and trying to find common ground with them, whatever that might be. And
Yeah, because here, even though it's less of us, you're more isolated. So some of them live in senates, or I don't know how to say that, but in senates. Some of them live, a few of us, very few, live in the city center. So it's not so easy to integrate per se. So then when there is events, like big events, like the World Cup or something, so then everybody makes the effort of coming. But other than that, it's more isolated than in other places, unfortunately, sometimes.
So that means that perhaps there is more integration, like more learning about the community that is not only your cultural community. And so how, what are the benefits? Like, so how is different Humberto now after being integrated into the Slovak experience? Right? So what it gave you in terms of, you, personality, life, things you learned?
you learn to be more flexible, I would say. That you can't be set on your ways about certain things. That if in order to live in this country, where I have a good job, where it's safe, where food is healthier than in the States, there's less pollution, I'm gonna have to put up with the little road that goes to Robinka, only one lane on each side, or that I don't like the way I get treated at the store sometimes, but I see them for 2 minutes and then they never part of my life again. So you just learn to be flexible, have a thicker skin, and let things that bother you just roll off, and then enjoy the things that you like.
And you? What is the different, Elena, after the Slovak experience?
My Slovak experience, to sum up, I mean, I think I'm a happier Elena right now. It's given me a lot, which I'm super thankful for. Mainly my two beautiful babies. It's given me the opportunity to travel a lot, which is something I always wanted to do, and now I have. I've met some amazing, great people here. I have a pretty amazing family here, not just my sister-in-law, but her family that have taken us in like their own. So it's been a really pleasant experience for me overall. Even with the ups and downs, it's still been amazing, and I don't regret coming here.
Even with the foreign police, it's still okay.
Yes, I forgot about that. Even with that,
You want to forget about it.
my brain just blocked that completely. So yeah. Even that aside, it's still, I would do it all over again.
But this is an experience you have like once every few years, right?
Well, when you first come here, it's every 2 years, so it's quite often, unfortunately. But now, once you do the longer one, then yeah, you don't have to go back in like 8-10 years, so it's okay. Hopefully the next time we have to go, it's better.
It's already improved.
Yes.
Maybe online or something.
Please.
Hopefully the world is going to improve as well, technologically.
Yeah.
And so that's very interesting what you say. And so that potentially, if there are some Mexican listening, or is it interesting choice to do, or something you would suggest? Like, yeah, just give it a try and visit Europe and Slovakia. It's something interesting that.
I think it's a good country to be for a few reasons, but mainly because it's not so expensive as compared other countries in Europe, and being you get papers fairly easier than other countries as well. So, as an overall, I would say it's much easier and much better to come here than any other countries even around us because of those two reasons, which for me are key when I'm thinking of going somewhere.
What is the motivation? What has Slovakia as a plus?
For example, a colleague now that was in Brazil, she recently was offered, they asked her to relocate to a different place because of IBM reasons. She said no, so they gave her option B, you can go to Bratislava then. So then she was asking me, she has lived in Brazil her whole life, she's Brazilian, and I only gave positive things. I was maybe even surprised about all the feedback I was giving her, but especially when you come from a big city in anywhere in the whole American continent, I told her here you can forget about traffic, you can forget about the crime, literally forget about it, because you will have to look for it to see it. You can travel very, very cheap. You will make enough money to live without a problem. So then you start, I found myself giving only positive feedback. And so if someone would ask me, would you recommend it, I would say yes. Because there's not a lot of negative, because she told me, how about the language? And I told her, yeah, because she's only would come here for like 2 years. So I told her, you're not gonna learn in 2 years because it's difficult. It's very difficult.
Except if you are Czech, perhaps.
Right.
Yeah, and she can speak Portuguese and Spanish. I'm like, well, it's a very long gap. No, it doesn't help you. Because I told you that the language is very difficult. But don't worry, there's many people that are here like you, that are foreigners, they don't speak the local language and are able to live no problem here. So I would recommend
that's
it.
another plus. Even without speaking Slovak, you can still survive here.
You just need to have
So
one
that's
family
another
member or one good friend.
That wouldn't happen to me if I go to Mexico and I don't speak any Spanish. I wouldn't be able to survive, you think? It would be harder?
But that's the case of in any country, right? But here, since there's already like a bigger community of foreigners that you can actually find either people or places that can assist you with the English.
Yeah.
I
Even
think
just the
it's the
basic.
same in Italy. I can't go to Italy and expect a lot of people to speak English.
Oh, that's true, actually. And I found out that here there is a basic knowledge of English that is much higher than what I expect from.
And in Mexico, it doesn't exist.
No, I agree.
There's no one that, it's not a huge percentage that speak English at all, so.
I find this also a lot of colleagues of mine that are coming from Moscow, right? They were giving me a similar information, not only regarding traffic jam, but also safety and so on. So that's probably something I would like to know from you. Is it what is the difference between living in Chicago or Ciudad del Mexico and Bratislava? Is it you feel safer here and you spend less time wasted in queues and stuff like that?
For sure. There's no traffic here compared to those cities at all. And as far as safety goes, in Chicago we felt pretty safe already. But here is even safer, I would say.
But for example, in Chicago, when I first got there, I was in high school. And maybe if they would do that here, people would be shocked. But in Chicago, during class, they would make an announcement, nobody can leave their rooms right now in the middle of class. So not even, and when they made that announcement, no one could even go to the bathroom. Because there were dogs looking for drugs in the school. Or then they implemented the metal detectors because there were some people bringing guns into the school. So, while you're there, you see it very normal. And because of that, you feel safe. But here, they wouldn't even have to do it because I don't think there's many people bringing kids, 14-year-olds bringing guns to the school.
But we could leave the cars unlocked, for example, and you wouldn't have to worry about it.
Also, there were parts of Chicago where you could be very safe. But one time I walked in the south of Chicago, and it was the worst experience of my life. You know, you cannot be there. So there are parts that are incredibly dangerous. Here, I've been in Petrochalka, in Brushinov, in everywhere you go, and it's the same. And I never felt threatened by anybody or anything. So I don't think there is crime here. And in Mexico, it's worse. For example, if you would leave your phone on your desk, and you go to the bathroom, it's very likely it will be gone by the time you come back. And you will never find it again, ever. So,
Yeah, here is like a whole other world, literally.
if somebody thinks there's crime here,
No, that's the point, because a lot of folks might also, because discussing as well, with who is Slovak and who lives only here, it looks like, one main happening, right? I don't know, it can be a murder or can be a theft, is a serious happening. And from my experience, it is serious, but the positive thing is that it's not frequent at all, right? It doesn't happen on a daily basis. And yeah, that's what I consider like the difference.
Yeah.
You get used to crime somewhere that they're not anymore part of the news, and that's negative.
Yes.
Sometimes I watch the news and they're like interviewing a guy that walked up the mountain. That's a headline that they put on TV, where in other places it would never make the news, a guy that walked up a mountain, because there's 1,000 other things, bad things happening in the country. So that's a big plus. And the queues here, even right now, because of the construction and because of the amount of houses that they're building outside of the city, I think right now the traffic is probably worse than it has ever been. And it takes me 30 minutes to get home. In Chicago, it was an hour and a half to get home. So half hour in the car, I can do it no problem. You put some YouTube on and you can kill that half hour no problem on the way home. So that's also
Another plus.
it's nice. Yeah. And when I lived in the city, forget it, I walked to work. So walking to work in Chicago or in Mexico, never, ever.
Except it's a very small village, but the big cities.
Never happening.
Interesting. No?
Yeah.
Good experience.
So many positives on Slovakia. Who would have thought?
But you identify the customer service here as well as a different that is a common pattern for in all.
It's almost an extension of how they treat you in the foreign police.
But that's a different point, because that's
But the customer service is similar in the foreign police and in Vila or in Tesco.
And even some restaurants are pretty bad, I gotta say. Some people in the restaurants treat you pretty horribly. So, yeah, customer service here is not there.
Do you think because you look like a Mexican, or
No,
because
because
it's common for
that's
everyone?
common. They treat the Slovaks and the foreigners the same in the restaurants. But for the Slovaks, that's okay, because that's what they're used to.
And that's the thing, that it won't improve, because I think the Slovaks are used to it. So when you complain, then again you're the weird one. What's wrong with you? Why you asking for something that shouldn't be there? But in that case, I think it should be there, because it's me with the money. I'm the one that came here voluntarily for money, so you should treat me nice so I come back.
Or at least not horribly.
Yes.
Neutral would be enough.
But personally, here I think also might be, I don't know, this is my very own personal opinion, that since here they don't get tips, it doesn't matter if they treat you horribly or excellent, because they will still get their 20 cents for tip, and they have their salary, so it doesn't matter to them. There's no incentive, it doesn't matter what they do. Whereas in other places, even within Europe, in Italy or somewhere where they live for tips, in the States, they all they get is tips, they have to treat you good. Otherwise, they won't get a
So that's
paycheck.
an
They won't get
incentive,
money. So I think maybe that is also why here, like, meh, it doesn't matter. So why even make an effort? So yeah, but it's in some places it's quite
Still,
bad.
if you would be the owner of a place, right, I would love my employees to behave according to the way to make sure that more customers are coming in and they are coming out with a smile. So it's not only tip wise, it's also
You would think.
Yeah, you want
your purpose.
you want people to come and come back and come back and bring more people and recommend your place, and but they don't see it that way. They think profit doesn't matter for them, maybe, or they.
It might be a mindset because it's
They're not very business oriented
the 10th
here.
Slovak experience, but in all the other before that is a common pattern, right? From all foreigners, if you have to pick up one thing, right, to improve, that's something that could be improved into the Slovak culture at least. Anything else if you would be able, if you have a magic wand and you would like to change something about Slovakia, what would you change on top of this? This is obvious. That's already. There is an idea for business guys, a school for customer service and this kind of relationship. That would be nice.
No,
Something else to change.
I can think of anything right now. Not at all.
So it's already a perfect place.
Almost.
They just need to adopt Mexican food.
Oh yeah,
Just the store for Mexican products.
Bring all the fruits and products from Mexico.
Reasonably
here.
priced though, because then
Grow them.
they want to sell you a can of beans for like 10 euros almost. So
No, sell everything from the same price as potatoes,
Yes.
of course, once it's here, and then I'll be happy.
If there are a lot of buyers, then the price goes down, right? So depending on how much we are able to sell that.
No, but that's just a joke.
But yeah, I know that would be.
It would be too good then to be true. Who wouldn't live here then?
Yeah, that's true. And do you also deal sometimes with local news or information and politics? Anything you get informed with?
I don't speak Slovak, so not at all.
No, I know there's one newspaper online, the SME, that does articles in English. But no, I don't read it. I know nothing about the government. I know nothing about the politics. I don't know what the state does with my taxes. I don't know where my taxes go. I know nothing about this. So hopefully they're doing something okay with the money that they're taking from my paycheck every month. But no, fortunately, on that sense, I don't know if it's just my personality or there's really not anything coming to us that I should be catching.
It depends. I mean, probably the only thing is that you voted as well, right, for the or you had to vote for the.
I couldn't.
We could, but I did not.
You could as well.
And I saw that they were promoting, and we got the flyers on the mailbox.
But those flyers weren't in English, right?
No.
Of course not. So,
But that's the point, right? You will get a flyer in English or someone that addressed to you.
it will be
That
different,
will be
maybe.
different, no?
Because then you will know that I wouldn't have to ask my wife to translate. So most of those flyers just went straight to the trash. Because they were probably not interested in the vote of the foreigner anyways.
But that's probably the way that we were brought up. We don't get mixed with politics or anything that has to do with that. But there is Mexicans here. There are Mexicans here that are
But not
involved.
even Mexican newspapers or
No.
US or in general?
No, we don't.
I mean, we just knew that they stole a lot of money, and that was basically it all the time. And now that if I want to hear the news, there is this one guy that does the news in the States. But he mainly does news for all South America and Latin America. And that's where I get my news from. So I'm all up to speed in Venezuela, Colombia, Mexico, but nothing about Slovakia.
And so that's part of also the one of the experience, right? From us, like when you live here, it's so quiet as well, the environment. That also reading the news, there is never a significant change perhaps in the last years that really happened. Even if you read then the news, there are a lot of little changes in politics, and now there are a lot of topics also connected with more extremism, parties getting into parliament as well, not only in Slovakia but also in the neighboring countries, right? So that the conversation became a little bit less open to foreigners, unfortunately, in several areas. And some consider it as a kind of a threat for openness in the future. So it's more kind of revamp of kind of nationalist spirit. That doesn't make sense, to a kind of a cosmopolitan world, but still makes sense to a kind of political narrative, right? And that's what I wonder, right? If the last time, in these last years that you're here, maybe if since 2015, 16, you felt that there is even less openness toward foreigners or not. Do you feel anything or any change with people or discussions or not at all?
Not that I saw a change or felt a change. I knew that about 3-4 years ago there were some elections, and there was one of the candidates that literally was preaching that foreigners were a disease and only whites, this type of guy. Obviously he didn't get a lot of support, or at least people didn't manifest that support towards this kind of this kind of people, and he didn't win, he didn't go anywhere, but that's all I heard. And most of the people that knew about him said, yeah, he's crazy, he's not gonna win, which was a good thing at least to know that people didn't support him. But no, so that I know that there were elections here for the mayor of Bratislava recently, and somebody won.
Yeah.
But for me to notice any change anywhere, no.
And what about instead your free time, right? So what's you have work, you have little fellows, a wife, so that they take majority of your time. Anything else? What's your passions or what you do?
Friday football is one of the must. Since I
also to complete your Slovak experience, right? So where you go?
Unfortunately, it was with I started with the inside sales guys in Apollo. So there were most of us foreigners. We started playing football on Fridays, and before there used to be like half Slovaks, half foreigners. Now it's like one Slovak guy and everyone else is foreigner. But we've been doing that for 7 years now. Okay. Still going, same place, same price. So it's a good deal we keep getting from that school. Other than that, it's just being with the kids. Being with the kids more, spending money with the kids, being with the kids.
That's cool.
And then when the kids finally go to bed or something, we do get watch a show or something just to disconnect.
What about you?
I have a pretty close circle of friends that I hang out with. A little bit. There's a group of Mexicans that sometimes we get together and hang out. Just regular, just go out for the wine or a movie or dinner. And then there's also a more diversity group that has more like Slovaks and foreigners and me, and then the same thing, dinner, movies. Nothing huge, but yes, we do spend time out in the town sometimes.
Nice. And you have that's maybe a particularity I would like to know as well. Sometimes in talking about the diversity in this. No, is it a different role the women play in Slovakia compared to Mexico? You think you have more equal opportunities or fairer treatment for men or stuff like that? Or you didn't find anything in particular more opening? I wonder just So somebody, one of the episodes where Anka was here, she said, Slovakia is actually the country for women, where it's they are in the power, they are managing from behind as well, and they have a strong role here. So it's a big acceptance. I don't know if you had any thought around that.
No, I've never thought about it that way. I was raised the very old-fashioned way.
Conservative.
Very, very, very conservative.
Okay.
And I don't really think of I want equality, or I want to be the same as the guys, and why. But that is just me, my personality. As far as the treatment that you get here, I haven't seen any difference in Mexico, the States, or even here. I haven't experienced any difference in any of the three places, whereas I'm treated less or less equal in any of them. But I think that also has to do with your personality in most of the cases, where you have to speak up, and I always speak up most of the time. So I haven't seen or felt any differently here. No.
Cool. So before closing, right? Perhaps maybe how do you define your Slovak experience in a few words? Let's start from you.
In a few words, freedom, contentment, and
He said a few, not like three.
Oh,
I don't know how to put it in a sentence.
He's like, in 3 words, describe.
that's good because you summarize.
He's thinking like an IBMer, in those surveys. Describe IBM in 3 words.
It's that's it. It's been very good so far. It has exceeded expectations.
Okay. So the survey would say from a rate between from 1 to 10.
What to rate your experience?
8.
What's yours?
What's my rating? I think for me, even maybe a little more, like a 9.5.
Okay.
Only because, again, spending time with my niece and nephew has been priceless. I would never be able to put a price on it or change that at all. And traveling for me has been key on all these 6 years that I've been here. I've been everywhere, and that has given me a lot to share and for my personal growth. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I wasn't here. So it's been also very, very pleasant for me as an overall experience. Recommended.
Thank you. Anything else we should share and we haven't shared so far?
Can't think of anything.
Nothing else that comes to mind. Thank you for the invitation.
So thank you for sharing. That's been very interesting for me to learn
I
from
hope
you.
so.
Right? I guess that's also a good thing that your brother started, also to bring you here. That's quite cool. I'm happy to have met you, and that was cool.
Thank you. We tried recruiting my sister many times to come to Slovakia, but she couldn't give up Chicago.
Still not happening.
She's too attached.
Because we have another sister.
Another sister.
That's true, that she comes here from time to time.
Still in Chicago.
The baby.
If this Slovak experience didn't convince you yet, right? So we will, because the days here will continue in a positive way. So like 9 and 8, so the average is...
It's good. It's high.
Almost 8.5. So it's a good place.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
for
Lele.
sharing. Thank you everyone for listening to my Slovak experience. See you at the next interview. Till then, have fun, share and enjoy. So, did you like my Slovak Experience podcast? If yes, you can share it with your friends and peers. They can listen it from many sources, such as iTunes, Stitcher, Tuning Radio, or Spotify. And now, You can also watch us on video while we are recording on YouTube. Thank you.